the last paper of the semester and everything is changing. Because that's what the last paper is kind of about. It's time to start talking about the last essay. Now, I know that it's been a whirlwind semester. No matter when you're watching this, all semesters are a little bit whirlwind, aren't they? But all good things have to come to an end, and we're going to go out with research. For the research essay, I want us to look into the future. Ooh, look into the future. Now, a lot of people, when we talk about the future, tend not to have a lot of hope, but I do. And I think there's a good reason to have hope. If you look over a lot of the statistics from how the world is now compared to how it was, say, just 100 years ago, things are a lot better now on a whole bunch of different levels. And there's reason to believe that this all can continue. But this is something that we're going to talk about in another video. What I want us to think about right now is, why is the world changing, and why might the world be changing for the better? What are the effects of the changes we see in our real lives? And one answer for certain is that technology is increasing. Cell phones right now are drastically different than they were 10 years ago, which are drastically different than they were 20 years ago. And with new technology comes new capabilities, which allow us to do a bunch of other things. But it's not just the technology that changes, it's also sometimes the state of the world. And these things often work in tandem. Let's get an example. A few years ago, in case you can't remember, lucky you, COVID came around. Now, I think you probably remember COVID. It changed lots of things. It made us hunt for toilet paper weirdly for a number of months. But the way our society responded to COVID created changes that I don't think we would have easily recognized right away. When we went into lockdown, it meant that many people, many people, had to change how they work. I'm a teacher, so I'm used to being in front of a class and talking to people. But could you do that during a lockdown? No, you couldn't. So we had to find new ways to reach people. I ended up, because I was in a household where two other people had to be live to get their stuff done, we didn't have the bandwidth for me to try to hold an online class where we're all in Zoom windows, so I moved to doing things via video. I had to teach myself how to make videos. If you were to look at the changes in how the videos were done, well, you can see it from the first video we did, which I did during the lockdown, to the videos I'm doing now. I got a lot better at it. I got a lot better at learning how to use the technology. I got a lot better at figuring out things like lighting and sound, and I think I'm doing a consistently better product now. It wasn't just that I had to now do videos instead of talk to people. Remote learning, get it, remote, changed my entire outlook to education. Outlook, get it? I told you the humor wasn't going to get any better in this class, right? Well, one of the things I used to do was, the last day of class, I'd give a couple bonus points to people who had perfect attendance. One of the things the lockdown taught us educators is that perfect attendance isn't necessarily a good thing, because if someone was feeling sick, do you want them to come into a classroom if they might be sick and might infect other people? No. So it's not for the common good anymore to encourage things like perfect attendance. We want people to be able to stay at home when they're sick, but because everything was online, they can still be more productive. They can still take part in the class. They don't have to miss stuff. Is that a good or a bad thing? I don't think that's as simple as a question. And let me go for a sub-example here. I started to use Remind during the course of the lockdown because I figured that students wouldn't have the immediate ability to ask me questions like they could in class. I figured Remind would be a good way to make the student feedback a whole lot more immediate and more evocative of something that might happen in person. So if you had a question, I'd be able to answer it. And that seems like an unequivocal good. But this week, while I was at my weekly Dungeons and Dragons game, yes, I'm a nerd in case you couldn't figure it out, I got several messages on Remind, which meant that while I should be doing things to keep my mind off of the normal rigmaroles of life, I can't stop working. So, is using Remind in class a positive or a negative? It's kind of hard to say. There are complicated reactions, there are complicated implications for most of the changes we make. And this is the kind of thing I want you to think about for your research essay. For the research essay, it's a longer essay. It's 8 pages minimum, 6 sources minimum. It's worth more points. The thing I want you to focus on is that change is coming and it's going to have real-world implications. Whatever the field, there will be unintended consequences of any advancement, of any change. What major advancements are coming in your field, and what are their possible repercussions? On what dangers should people in the field focus? Back up your predictions and your analysis with specific research. And you can look at field as your future career, your academic major, or anything else where you have a good area of interest. There is going to be advancement. There is going to be change. What are going to be the implications of such change? Now, as always, I want you to make sure you're looking at your specific syllabus and your specific major assignment sheet for all specific details for your specific work. You said specific way too much. One of the things that the major assignment sheet does also say is that you're going to do a research proposal for this essay. And I want you to do a research proposal because this is the last thing you'll be doing. It's going to be longer, and the more in advance you plan, the better off it's going to be. But I have a video coming up on that one, so we'll be able to talk about that one a little bit later. Now, the research essay is the last thing you're going to be writing in this semester. And because it's due right at the end of the class, there's not the revision opportunities for this essay like there were for the ones in the past. So it's going to be really important that you get on this ball, really quickly and really think this one through because it needs to be good. There's no do-overs on this one. As always, ask me questions via Remind. I'm happy to get back to you. Work on making your essay more specific because although this one is longer than the others, it ain't that much longer, and specific subjects are still better. Narrower is always going to be better. And let me know if you have questions. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.